Hey guys, welcome to another video on Correct Me, where I get to tell you about the day's news and you guys can correct me in the comments below so we can have open dialogue about it, okay? So today I'm going to talk about Danielle Smith and her recent trip to the United States, to Florida, to discuss with Ben Shapiro on electing solid allies to the Trump regime down there. Okay, so but before I get into that, I just want to play for you her Breitbart clip that has got a lot of people here calling her traitor, or I think it's called cussling, where you talk to the enemy. And here's that clip, just so you guys can
Pierre
hear it.
Poilievre is the name of the Conservative Party leader, and he was miles ahead of Justin Trudeau. But because of the what we see as unjust and unfair tariffs, it's actually caused an increase in the support for the Liberals. And so that's what I fear, is that the longer this dispute goes on, politicians posture, and it seems to be benefiting the Liberals right now. So I would hope that we could put things on pause, is what I've told administration officials. Let's just put things on pause so we can get through an election. Let's have the best person at the table make the argument for how they would deal with it. And I think that's Pierre Poilievre. And I do agree with you that if we do have Pierre as our prime minister, then I think that there's a number of things that we could do together. Pierre believes in development. He believes in low-cost energy. He believes that we need to have low taxes. Doesn't believe in any of the woke stuff that we've seen taking over our politics for the last 5 years. So I would think that there's probably still always going to be areas that are skirmishes or disputes about particular industries when it comes to the border. But I would say, on balance, the perspective that Pierre would bring would be very much in sync with, I think, where the new direction in America.
So that's her argument, that Pierre Poilievre would be more in sync with the new direction in America. And just so you realize, like, before we get to the article, who she's talking to, okay? This is Ben Shapiro on Pierre Poilievre and Canada, okay?
The reality is that Pierre Poilievre, who's the leader of the Conservative Party and is excellent, a terrific leader, would be amazing Prime Minister of Canada. President Trump has basically proposed that we annex Canada, and I feel like they will greet us as liberators at this point, because Justin Trudeau is just absolutely the worst.
Yeah, we will not greet you guys as liberators, just so we're clear.
Notice that the Canadians have become quite humorless about this. By the way, it isn't just Canada. Don't worry. It's also Greenland. I mean, why the hell not? Let's expand the real estate holdings of the United States. Everything we're saying about Canada is true. It's a silly country that makes maple syrup, hockey, and annoying prime ministers. And by the way, it is funny. I'm sorry. It's not funny. Of course it's funny that Donald Trump called Justin Trudeau the governor of our 51st state. That's hilarious. I love it. It's great. And again, I'm not saying we should, I'm not saying Canadians should vote in American elections, God forbid, or something. I mean, we can annex it and then just call it an outlying territory or something. I mean,
Did you hear that? That's what they want. So all the Canada for 51st state, like, they want to make Canada like Puerto Rico, okay? They want to where you don't get to vote, okay? And, a lot of American influencers are like this. This is Tim Pool. After we destroy the Canadian economy, their will to resist will erode. And we will march in there unopposed and deliver Canada to its rightful place as a territory of the U.S. with no political representation. No political representation. Why? Because we would be, way more closely aligned with the Democrats, and all these people are Republicans, right? And it's not just tariffs that we oppose. Let's be really, really clear, okay? We oppose a lot of things that are happening down there. And if you want to see what, like, a Canadian patriot sounds like, here's Charlie Angus, okay? But
I think there's something deeper, Ben, that Canadians are really focusing on right now, which is watching our nearest neighbor slip into totalitarianism. When we see people being pulled off the streets, when we see people at universities being grabbed, detained, rendered and kidnapped. And then we see Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security boss, doing this really disgusting video in front of half-naked men in an overcrowded El Salvadorian prison cell. We're looking at a nation that we don't understand anymore, and we don't want to be like that nation. And we're thinking, if we go down the road with this regime, we're talking about the disappearance of the rule of law. And that's deeply offensive to us. It's deeply offensive to our friends in Europe. It's deeply offensive to our friends in Australia and Japan and elsewhere. So we're now, as the Prime Minister said, we're having to look elsewhere for the kind of alliances and agreements and understandings that we used to have with our nearest neighbor. If our nearest neighbor doesn't respect the rule of law for its citizens, how's it going to respect the rule of international law? And it certainly doesn't respect us as Canada. So we have no choice. We have to make decisions, and we're going to make decisions that benefit our region and our people first.
100%. That's what a Canadian sounds like, guys. And if when he's talking about them disappearing people, here's just the most recent Canadian that I found that had problems at the border, and she made a quick video. She was going to Las Vegas for a birthday party, and they stopped her at the border, right? And let's hear it from her.
I'm a Canadian, and I have a Canadian passport. I always did have. And yesterday I was stopped by a CBP custom border officer. And I've been questioned for 7 hours, and about 6 to 7 hours. So I just want to share my experience. I'm Canadian. I was on my way to my friend's 50th birthday. And when I crossed the border, the US border, the man took away my passport and said to sit down. So I sat down. There wasn't really that many people. 2 people arrived before me, and they kind of were called before me, but pretty much I was alone all this time. And I asked how long it's going to take. My flight is in 3 hours. And they're like, listen, there's nothing we can do. So eventually, after sitting there for an hour, a lady calls me. Her name is Judith Emmanuel. A lady calls me, and she doesn't really say. She just questioned me. She says, what is your what is your name? What is your date of birth? What's the reason of you going to Las Vegas? I was going there because it was my friend's birthday, and I have a ticket back on Monday. So I was going there on Thursday to come back on Monday. And so I just give her, and then she starts, what is your social media account? And what is your OnlyFans account? And I'm like, I don't have an OnlyFans account. I don't, and I never did have. So for the first 4 hours that she was questioning me, and then she took my phone, she started going through my messages and questioning me about my messages. And I did cooperate because I really hoped that I was going to make it to my friend's birthday. It's been planned for like half a year at least. And she goes through my phone, she questions me about stuff, and she keeps pushing about me being abused, or that my boyfriend is pimping me. And she kept giving me books about my lover, my aggressor, and like as if I've been aggressed. I have no idea how she did that. So where she took that assumption. I'm in a really beautiful long-term relationship, and so I'm not exactly sure why this lady, Judith Emmanuel, was questioning me as if I was an escort. I've never been an escort. I'm not planning to be an escort. I don't have anything against it, but it's just there's nothing that proved that. So she asked me for my phone. I gave her my phone, and she said, I'm just going to go look through it really quickly so that you will be able to take your plane. And the only reason that you won't be able to take your flight is if I find in your phone that there's a boom threat. And I'm like, okay, sure, yeah, just take my phone. I'm just really excited to go see my boyfriend. There's a misunderstanding about me having an O account. And so she took away my phone. She left for an hour. I didn't have my phone. I didn't have my passport. I didn't have a watch, and there was no watch. So I was just waiting and bawling my eyes because I'm like, yeah, it was quite intense. It was a lot of personal questions about my relationship with my family, like it's just mind-boggling how much privacy was breached in that conversation. And I cried. I was scared. So she comes back with my phone, and basically I ask her, what time is it? She's like, oh, you missed your flight. I have questions to ask you. She went through my phone. She went through, listen, I'm an open person. I have naked photos in my phone. She went through my naked photos. She asked, oh, who is this person in your naked video? And it was my boyfriend. And then and then she kind of still kept pushing the scenario that I was an escort, which I am totally not. And finally, she was questioning me about text messages, specific text messages. She was asked, I had my phone number since the age of 18. So I've had it for 18 years now. So there were people like from college, and she was asking me about those people, and she was asking me about specific text messages. And they questioned me for 6 hours. I had zero food. I didn't have my phone. It's the first time. I go to the US quite often, but it is the first time that she denied me access. She denied me access. Not only did she deny me access, but she just kept pushing the scenario that my boyfriend, that I'm in a really beautiful relationship, is my pimp, without any base at all. She humiliated me. I feel humiliated. And I was the only person there. At the end of this whole thing, there was a guy who came, but apparently he had a probation, he was in prison, there was FBI involved. I just don't understand how me, as a 36-year-old Canadian woman who's going to a party to Las Vegas and has a ticket to come back and never had any problems anywhere, am I a threat to the U.S.? I just came home, and I'm so lucky I had an amazing support system, but I just felt so violated by this Judith Emmanuel person, and it just...
So you can see there that, they're just humiliating people, and so it's not just about tariffs, okay? It's about a lot more. But let's get back to Danielle Smith's article and what she was doing in the States. Okay, it says Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and a conservative influencer, Ben Shapiro, discussed how to help Canada elect solid allies. In other words, they're trying to find ways to influence the election up here, okay, to the Trump administration during private gala in South Florida. According to the audio of the event obtained by DSMOG and Canada's National Observer. Okay, there was a massive conservative movement happening in Canada, Shapiro said during the 25-minute conversation with Smith. I think the obstacles that need to be removed. It is better if the United States to have an actual solid ally running in Canada than to have some of these schmucks that have been running Canada over the past few years. In other words, they don't like our government, okay? Because we're not really disappearing people up here, okay? We're not sending people to El Salvadorian prisons. So that's that's not acceptable to them, right? Against the backdrop of American flags, Smith replied, I think President recognizes especially the importance of oil and gas, adding, we ship about 4.3 million barrels to the United States a day, and we'll keep it coming, okay? And then I just want to go over the highlighted parts because it's a long article, okay? At the event, and I'll leave a link below so you can read the whole article, okay? At the event hosted at the Resort and Conference Center in Boca Raton, Smith and Shapiro joked about Trump annexing Canada. I know the Premier is taking some flack in her hometown in all of her hometown neighborhoods for being on stage with me because I made an unfortunate error about making a joke about our soon-to-be 51st state. So again, he's referring to that video that we talked about earlier as a joke, but it didn't sound like a joke, right? And there's plenty of influencers down there. And then her response to that is, I come in peace. What do you mean? Like, your response to that, I think any normal Canadian would be like, we are not American. But no, she wants this, right? Like, and this is why people call her a traitor. This is why people call her cussling. Because why would you not, like, think about what Charlie Angus sounded like just a minute ago and how she sounds. Okay, there is an ideology, as you know, for those of you who believe we have to hit net zero as quickly as possible. Mark Carney has been behind the net zero banking move, okay? And so she's talking about in Canada, we have a little bit more respect for the environment, okay? We believe that we're an advanced society and we want to hit net zero. Now, the American argument is that China and India, they're just polluting like crazy. So, we should just pollute like crazy to compete with them. And Trump's been doing it, right? Like he just decimated the EPA. He's like taking out all environmental protections. And like, do I think that, maybe we had too much regulation or too many steps where we need to reform that? 100%. I think everybody agrees with that. Mark Carney said himself, that we need to, it's why he backed up on the consumer carbon tax. It's why he's saying that we're going to build pipelines to different markets, right? So we need to do that. And actually, it's a stupid argument. So the CBC put out this cool graph thing, okay, that you can compare from Harper to Trudeau, okay? So greenhouse gas emissions since 2016, you just draw a line. So I'm just going to draw it like this, okay? Because I think we can agree it's probably gone up a little bit. And you can see from Harper's time, right, it went down, and then, oh look, it went down some more. So then you would think oil production, fossil fuel production would go down, right? So let's take a look at oil. So, you know what I mean? Let's just keep it on par. But, oh no, it actually went up to 5 million. Now, Harper's had more growth, 18 points, 19 points more growth than Trudeau, but still growth, right? And then you take a look at natural gas. So that must be what went down, right? So we'll just keep it straight, and we can see here, oh no, actually during Harper's, he brought it down from 2.9 million to 2.6 million, and during Trudeau's, we went to 3.1 million. And let's be clear, we just opened an LNG plant that just finished being built on the port of Vancouver. So that number is going to go way up now, okay? Trans Mountain, I think, is just starting, okay? Because these projects take a long, long time. So the argument that, net zero is absolutely terrible and we won't produce as much oil, it's dumb. It's dumb. Because there is technology out there, right, where we can capture carbon, and that's what Carney and the Liberals are pushing for. More carbon capture, okay? And why wouldn't we want to capture more carbon? Why wouldn't we want to do the best we can and work with other countries that think like us, right? That actually think like us. Like, even Carney said, like, China's... I forget what the words he used, but he said something like, China's not, like, they don't trade the way we do, so we can't increase that much trade with them, right? Soon that we're going to say that about the States, and the rest of the Western world is. Let's be real, okay? Smith claimed you can't run the world on solar, wind, and batteries. Nobody's claiming to run the world on solar, wind, and batteries. And so now... is the time really for us to switch. I think America's been the first to make that switch. In February, U.S. Energy Secretary Wright called net zero climate targets sinister. Okay, whatever. She added that I will always stand up for the best interests of Alberta. I am grateful to have the opportunity. I had shared our message with hundreds of Americans, and tonight millions more via social media on the weeks to come. Okay, like you don't represent Alberta. You don't. You absolutely do not. Okay. Though Shapiro posted in March on Facebook that Trump's tariffs on Canada are not a wise move, he previously spent months appearing to defend the policy, making inflammatory comments supporting Trump's threatened annexation. Shapiro said in December podcast that Trump basically proposed we annex Canada, and I feel like they will greet us at Liberators. We watched this video. Okay, so I'll put a link to this article down below, but guys, don't believe this stuff. And yeah, Danielle Smith is a traitor. Okay, she's not doing anything down there. Do you notice any Canadian flags here? No, none. She just stands behind a bunch of American flags. And like everything that we're watching, from the text messages of war plans, how they like fist pump bombing people. Yeah, not into it. No, not into it. Not into it at all. Okay. Disappearing people like that girl that we just saw, right? And there's another girl, a Canadian girl who was a movie star that got disappeared down there. And there's a German. I'm going to get a bunch of those together, and they're just disappearing people, okay? I'm going to be doing a video about how they're sending asylum seekers to the prisons in El Salvador. Yeah, not cool. Not cool. Like there's a million things that Americans are doing that are not cool. Okay, that the Canadians down here, like we don't want any of that. Okay, and another thing is that they don't have, like, you know what I mean. Right now, if you say something opposed to the Trump regime, well, you better be ready to be disappeared, because they're checking phones. They're making sure. Like, that is crazy. That is crazy. That's like going to Russia. Okay, and yeah, it should be, because like they voted with Russia against the Ukraine war. Okay, so guys, let me know in the comments below. You know, am I way off? Do you have some other evidence that something else is happening in the States and we should want to be a part of it? Because from what I see, Danielle Smith's a traitor and should move below the 47th parallel. I'll see you guys on the next video.